What can people do to prevent those?
So what you can do is, as you can see, when you're feeling sick, and then you get worse, and then you see a doctor, hospitalized and everything, what you can see is, in stages 4 and 5, it is important to have oxygen or help breathing for the patient to recover. This is because the lung is infected, there is less efficiency in breathing, and overall the patient does not have enough oxygen, and therefore you help by giving oxygen, and if necessary, the patient is on a ventilator to help this whole process. But what's important is how your lungs function. So your lungs function in a simple way, in that you inhale and exhale, and when you inhale, the oxygen comes into your lungs and along with the other air, and oxygen is exchanged for carbon dioxide, and when you exhale, the carbon dioxide goes out. What's important is, if you're in a resting condition, the amount you breathe in is not that much because you're relaxed. So you don't need that much oxygen or air, and therefore you only breathe in a little. When you breathe in a little, your lungs will not be efficient. So like, for example, if you're running or sports, like doing a sports activity, you need much more air, you're breathing much more, you need to convert sugars into energy, and also you need to breathe a lot more. When you're in that situation, you need to use your lungs much more. But if you're not, so lungs high usage and low usage. So when you're in a high usage, your lungs are much more efficient, but you also use up much more of your lungs. And if you're resting, you don't use that much. The problem is, when you don't use most of your lungs, the space in your lungs, that space is space that the virus can build up, because the air is not circulating that much. So it's simple. What happens is, when you breathe a lot, the air goes down the trachea into your lungs, and your lungs fill up, it expands, and when it expands, the air creates pressure inside, and when you have more pressure in your lungs and your lungs expand, you have more efficiency and you have more exchange of oxygen converting into carbon dioxide. So that's an efficient system. When you're resting or sleeping or lying in bed, what happens is your lungs will shrink because it's not being used that much, and the air that comes in is not that much, the pressure is less, so you have low pressure, and then it's only a part of your lungs that's been used to an optimal standard. The rest is not optimized, and so there is room for the virus to grow. Now, when you feel sick, what you usually do is you lie down in bed and you rest so that you recover and you take your medication. But when you are resting, when you are not active, then your usage of your lungs is lower, the space in your lungs is lower, and in the case of a virus, in the case of COVID-19 also, and viruses in general, you're giving room for the virus to grow in your lungs because you have an area which is not being used much in terms of air circulation. So this is all in your lungs. The problem is everything else might be functioning efficiently, but your lungs are not. And the virus affects your lungs. It lives in your lungs and it expands and grows in your lungs, and we are not doing much when it comes to the battle against the virus. So the main problems you need to address is making this whole system more efficient, filling your lungs with air from time to time, like deep breathing regularly, maybe 5 deep breaths, hold for 5 seconds or 3 seconds every hour, like that. And you need to do that more regularly so that your lungs are made more efficient. Another example is, for example, if you don't brush your teeth in the night, you have some food before going to sleep, and you don't brush your teeth in the morning, what happens is you have this smell and you're uncomfortable because you haven't brushed your teeth and the food in your mouth has decayed. So that's over, let's say, a period of 8 hours. Okay. But when you have breakfast, when you drink Milo or some cocoa drink or tea or fruit juice in the morning, you're awake for much more. Let's say you're awake for 16 hours, but nothing happens in your mouth in terms of decay because you're breathing. The air in your mouth circulates. So that way you're resisting any decay in your mouth, whereas in 16 hours, but again 16 hours, or if you have breakfast 2 hours later after waking up, it's 14 hours. But that's against 8 hours of nighttime sleeping, and within that 8 hours there is rapid deterioration of the food particles or whatever is in your mouth, and you get this smell and you might even have a bad stomach. So it's something like that. Your lungs also need to be more efficient. The air in your lungs needs to circulate. If you don't do that, chances are something like what happens to food in your mouth. Chances are when you have a virus infection, the virus might increase and grow, and this happens every day, every time, usually in the night time. When you're sick, if you lie down for too long and your breathing goes down to a comfortable level and matching the position you're in, because you lie down, you're not doing much, the usage of the area in your lungs goes down, which means the virus can keep growing. But then you take medication to fight the virus, if you have a medication, any medication that's useful. But over time, in some cases, it gets worse, and then you have hospitalization, ventilate, and then you might be in a ventilator. So what we're looking at here is mainly about oxygen. When you use your lungs more efficiently, you're giving oxygen, filling your lungs with oxygen, and so you don't really need to go to the hospital and have oxygen at that stage. Even when you're feeling sick, you can still do deep breathing. 5 deep breaths, hold for 5 seconds, and then heavy exhales. Get all the air out of your lungs as much as you can, and do that before you sleep also. And hopefully you let your body fight the virus. But while you're using your lungs to a higher capacity and you're using much more oxygen than you normally would. So what we're trying to do is try to get this oxygen up from level 4, for example, up to level 1 and 2. Another advantage of deep breathing is here. Is you're less stress. So you should be less stressed if you do deep breathing. So again, all you have to do is inhale 5 seconds and hold 5 seconds and exhale. Inhale, hold, exhale 5 times, and then you can do it every hour, every 2 hours or 2 hours before you sleep. Okay.